Guys, hope everyone's having a good evening. I want to go ahead and jump into this kind of trading recap with you guys. I know it's been a while since I made any of these. I've been out of town and I kind of came back on Monday from Mexico, took a really big loss, and from there I never made any of the trading recaps covering last week. So I'm gonna go ahead and follow up with them with you guys so we could go ahead and build our way up all the way to the recent loss. And this is a trade summarizing an entry I took on SPY, and it did net us around $940 return in less than 50 minutes. So we're gonna go ahead and jump together through the day when it is we took this trade. I did know I entered the market slightly late here. We're going to go ahead and show you guys the buy just for credibility purposes. So there's the buy, purchased there at 9:33 a.m. on May 12th. This was 0 DTE expiration, purchased 20 contracts, and later on so a little over 50, less than around 50 minutes. And now we're going to go ahead and break down the entry. I have it marked here, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the technical analysis and everything that I went through psychology in terms of entering the trade and exiting. So first, we go ahead and start the day. I'll reduce the speed here on the simulation. Jump over to my 1 minute chart. So beginning now, we're approaching now 7:16. Since I was on 5x, it was kind of quick. But I start charting out my levels. We look at the high days, we identify some support, we have some supply. So we're going to let the chart play out, just monitoring it. One thing I can tell you about trading, especially with these 0-day expirations, a lot of beginner investors want to experiment with more cost. I guess you could say cost. Oh man, they try to be cheap, something that are much more less costly economically, or where beginner traders try to trade, and that's oftentimes the most highest risk one. So when trading with a chart, monitor every single thing that's happening, chart out your levels. You can see here, we bring this down, we have a demand area right here where there's multiple touches down, coming up to that high, rejecting. Then we have some more resistance, coming up here, boom, rejecting. This candle came up here, rejected. We had some support established down here, hold itself pretty firm, try to hold itself again now, and then continue to break lower. So now we're going to go ahead and know where our supply is at, which are going to be down here at 673. So right now, just gathering information, adapting to the ranges. This right here would be our first range. Let's see if we had build up to a second one. And this trade didn't happen until 9:33, so I was collecting a lot of data, knowing that this was, Tuesday after a very aggressive move towards the downside after we peaked at 740. And then after that, we began to trend lower. It was, I in the moment was very upset that I didn't catch these puts. I did want to, oftentimes enter puts right here and just catch this bottom, but I felt that the market was just, I feel like with everything happening in terms of the ceasefire and I guess Nvidia earnings coming on Wednesday, I knew that we are going to be a little bit overweight going into earnings, because usually Nvidia kind of sells off after her earnings report. So I expected, them to sell off the market before earnings. So I was a little bit more bearish at the beginning, but once I missed these puts, in my head, I'm already adapting to these calls. I know that I missed the train, so I want to catch something good. So now, moving down these levels, I for sure have left supply from all the way up here. Now I can go ahead and adapt my supply line all the way down to this low. We notice some support established here around 732.64, and then we had, maybe let's see where this resistance at, right? Continuing to follow her along. Go ahead and increase the speed here just a little bit. Looks like we have some resistance there that was clearly developing, and then once again making our way down towards this supply. And you can see resistance was pretty steady right there, rejecting. And later on, once she went ahead and entered here, I was already noticing, hey, this is near my supply. I don't know, with current, sellers potentially exhausting here. Look at how much they brought her down, 736 all the way down to a low 732. Once they dropped there all the way down to 732, I was like, sellers have to exhaust and buyers have to step in. There hasn't been much buying momentum. There's not a lot of negative headlines. I guess market conditions aren't necessarily too, I guess you could say, bearish for them to be this oversold. So I felt a little bit confident near the supply area. I went ahead and entered the position with 20 contracts. 20 contracts times, it's not going to be accurate because it doesn't calculate for theta, but 20 contracts would be 2,000 shares of SPY. So let's see what we kind of simulate here. And I know that it draws down lower, drew down lower to below supply, and I was like pretty, yeah, this is not accurate. These numbers are, I don't think that they're for sure. Yeah, for sure not. And then I would have closed this trade right here. So once I went ahead and closed it, I did not make 3.3K. I thought it would simulate something similar to the option returns, but it was 940 in profit. But now, driving my selling, what made me take my position right there at the end? Looking at this previous level of resistance over here, where the trend went ahead and went up, down, over here, kind of rejected as well. So I was like, hey, we broke above this resistance that, boom, initially was establishing. We went above it. Hey, where's the next point that selling's happening before this level right here? And it happened right there. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be too greedy. And I pulled the trade right there at 10:23, giving it the 15-minute period. And then after that, she went ahead and caught this bottom and continued to fly back up to open days. And did I, obviously I feel like some traders are going to feel a little bit like, damn, there would have been more money left on the market, because that for sure happens. But don't beat yourself up. I always have this quote that I share with all of my clients, and I say green over greed, homie. Like, be glad that you made what you made, especially if it's a number like 940, man. That happened in 50 minutes. I don't know too many careers or jobs that are paying 940 for 50 minutes, so you have to be grateful for these things. And despite, me pulling out at 940 and maybe selling up here at the top, I would have made, I think, an extra, if I did the math, I think it was around roughly like 4,700 I missed out on. So it for sure sucked, but, and in 50 minutes, you can't complain. And it just releases the emotions. You get what you want out of the trade, you're done. And this was for sure one of those trades where, like, you as a trader will be upset you missed the opportunity, or sold too early. But oftentimes when people feel like that, the next trade, they try to hold it too long and it'll go completely against them. So you have to have some sort of discipline to pull plugs. And that return right there, percentage return wise, let me go ahead and show you guys that May 12 percentage return. It was over 247% here on SPY. And returns, like, how much have to be realistic with trying to leave the table with, 247% return. Like, for me, that's phenomenal. You compare that to the S&P 500, a lot of your traditional investments, bro, 247% return in 50 minutes. Like, I outcompeted the S&P by 20 years. If we're really putting it at an average of 10%, outcompeting high yield savings by 40 years if you're putting them at 5%. There's a lot of significant gains that I created in such a short amount of time that, bro, if you're a trader, like 100%ers, 200%ers, be grateful for them. Don't get me wrong. There's ultimatum people that can, push it, bro, like 400, 500%ers almost every single trade because they're timing themselves differently. And I often tell people, like, it's all based on being realistic with yourself to an extent. I feel like there's times where we will hold a trade expecting a much higher capital return, but the percentage return, it humbles you. It brings you more to like a realistic kind of perspective on what you profited on the trade, no longer, disconnecting yourself from the capital. And now if you could compound that percentage, right, the capital will come with it. And I tell people that almost every day, like, if you could compound 30% 5 days a week for the next 6 months, but you're doing exponential damage. Let's go ahead and ask ChatGPT this real quick. Hey Chat, if I could compound $100 at 30% every single day for the next, let's say, 30 days, how much would that be?
All right, so if you're compounding 30% daily, that's pretty amazing. We'll start with 100.
I hope I went ahead and asked this question correctly here.
After 30 days,
And keep in mind, there's 5 trading days, so we'd do 30 divided by 5. So that would be 6 trading weeks. So that'd be a month and 2 weeks. You wouldn't get necessarily the full, I guess you can say, 30 days like you're trading. It's only 5 of them. So you'd have 6 trading weeks, which is technically a month and 2 weeks. You go ahead and add the other 2 weeks. That was only, let's say if we're doing 5 trading days times, let's say 4 trading weeks, right? Because there's 5 trading days in every week. That's going to be 20 days, right? So if 4 trading weeks is necessarily 20, then that means that we'll have 20 days per month, and we're going to go ahead and do this for 3 months. That'd be 60, right? So now we're going to ask it 60 days, and then pretty much since we asked it 30, it'll be 60, 111, 17, and now multiply that by 2, bro, you'd have 12,234. If on every single one of your 0 DTE trades, your day trades, you can compound 30% for the next 2 months. Some trades do 247%, and then you only have to do maybe one trade that does 10%, 20%, 30, 40%. You could accomplish these percentages much quicker. I don't know exactly what that would be total in multiple percentage number that you'd have to hit. I guess we can kind of do 30 days times 30. It'd be roughly like, man, it's a tough one. I don't want to say here, but if it's 30% daily and there's 30 days, wouldn't that be 900% gain? I feel like, let's ask it. Hey chat, would that mean that there would be a 900% gain here?
But here it compounds at 30% daily for 30 days.
9,000.
Actually multiplies it by about 61 times. So that's more like a 6,000% gain. Compounding is no joke.
Bro, you hear that? In less than literally a month, like that, well, less than, yeah, technically a month if you have the trading days included. And that's where you begin to see, you know, how you can scale such small capital, being realistic with the percentage and not necessarily always chasing the capital, which I feel like many individuals that get into trading trying to seek this as a supplemental stream of income rather than an actual skill set and investment. It's easy to go with cheap contracts and chase money, dollar amounts, rather than percentages and building that discipline, right? So I share that with you guys as a tip. So hopefully continue to build your guys' momentum and belief that it is possible. And we did conclude that trade of 940 in 50 minutes. It was one hell of a trade. It was a little bit bearish at first. We were negative like maybe 30-40% because of theta and how late we took it in the day, but it played out in our favor, thankfully. And other than that, man, that kind of wraps up this trading recap. If you guys enjoyed these videos, let me know in the comments. Leave a like, you know, share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And thank you guys for supporting us on a daily basis. Jerry Trades, the SoCat Trading Group, over and out.